while you're on it, but I want to see if we're going to two things.
We're going to call a meeting of the Board of Supervisors back to order. It's just 1:30 p.m. We're now going to take up items 23 Alpha, and then after that 23 Bravo. The first one is appointments to the Cultural Commission, citizens at large positions. And I have a disclosure to make. One of the applicants has me down as a reference, but also as attorney, so I don't have any problem disclosing that I am the attorney for that applicant. And given that, there's a clear conflict, and so I'm going to turn the gavel over to the Mayor Pro Tem, Supervisor About, and I'm going to step down from the dais on this issue. Okay? Thanks. Karen?
So, Nick, are you going to introduce candidates one by one, and then we'll go through our questions?
We are, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. We're going to introduce Danielle Cook first, and then we'll bring each one in individually after that.
Hello, Danielle Cook, currently serving, my term on the Cultural Commission just expired.
Hi, Danielle. I'm going to ask the question that the mayor traditionally asks, and then I have my own question.
Okay.
And that is, why do you want to sign up for this again?
Well, as some of you may know, I only had 2 years of the 3-year term. I took over for someone else, and the first year on the commission was pretty much going over the bylaws.
Yeah.
So we've actually only really gotten 1 year of starting to get to do things, and I think that now the fun begins. Now we can actually start moving forward on getting more arts, more culture integrated into Carson City. We went on a tour of Reno, the public art out there, and I see we've got the Capital City Arts Initiative artwork in this room, and that was partly due to our suggestion that, I mean, if they can do it, so can we. And it's little things that we can do to really make a big difference to this community.
Okay, thank you. Now, my question. As a part of the Carson City Cultural Master Plan moving forward, how do you envision encouraging the inclusion of public art in private development? What are your thoughts with regards? And there's no right or wrong answer. Just think out of the box like you're good at doing.
Well, I'm going to think that if because we already do offer various tax incentives, but we can make that as a requirement. Is if we're going to give you money, then you've got to give us something back as well. And not every business and not every development, not everyone gets Carson City money, but we can definitely have that as a tag that look, we give, but we want something back in return. So
thank you. All right, I'll start down the line and go from there. Brad.
I got to think of a new question, so I'll pass.
I'm going to go before he thinks of mine. Okay. How do you think the arts stimulate economic development?
Well, they make us a lot more interesting. And, they make Carson a little bit more exciting. And it's a place that people want to be. The arts do bring in people. We've got the Western Nevada Musical Theater that brings people from all over the area, to come and pay $25 for a ticket and stay for dinner and maybe even stay over in our motels or hotels. If, we've got, the art gallery at the legislative building. And whereas, the legislators are already here, already paying our motels and hotel fees, it gives them a better impression that, Carson City, we're not just a dusty, quiet town, that we really are, we've got the opportunity to impress upon people that we're more than just a bedroom community of Reno, or that we've got our own personality.
Good afternoon. My question is, how do you see the future of the art community as it relates to the youth and engaging them in the culture?
Well, I think that the arts community should really just be the Carson City community, because culture isn't just painting and sculpture and plays. I mean, we've got our Native American culture, our Basque and our Hispanic culture. We've already got so many great opportunities for kids. Youth Theater of Carson City, the Wild Horse Musical Theater, various classes at the Brewery Arts Center. I think just, promoting what we've already got. And, the community center through Parks and Recreation has some great stuff. And we can expand that, so that there's room for all kids that want to get involved in some manner. So, it's just, let's get the word out on what we're already doing and fill up every single spot in every one of those classes.
Well, since Karen stole my easy question, I'm back to a hard question. What do you feel, what should the place of the BAC be in our community, in the arts community?
I don't know that I'm the one that gets to decide that.
You don't get to decide it, but I'm just asking for your opinion, because you're on the commission now.
I mean, it is the Arts Center. I mean, it should be the heart. It should be, I think it should be working with all of the other arts groups and all of the other performance groups. I think as a coordinator, as a hub where all the other arts groups can kind of branch out. I'd like to see all arts in Carson City listed on their calendar and promoted through them, not just the couple concerts that they do. I'd like to see them as the champion for the arts in Carson City.
Danielle, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, geez. I really enjoyed being on this commission, and I'd like to, have the opportunity to do more than just 2 years. We've got, some great opportunity ahead of us, and if we're looking for diversification, I think I'm currently the only one under 40, and if with the applicants coming in, I'm still the only applicant. I think that that the arts and culture aren't just for retirees, and we do have we do have a lot of youth, and even people in their 20s and 30s. We've got musicians and performance artists, and I think that we can't lose sight of that. That to keep the kids here, we've got to give them a reason to feel like they belong here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you applying, or reapplying, I should say. Okay, who do we have next?
I believe Robert is not here today. I'm waiting to see Roger come walk back in. So we'll go with Mary at this point.
Welcome, Mary. It's good to see you. I'm going to ask the mayor's question, and that is, why do you want to do this? And then I'll ask my question.
Well, I really have enjoyed over the last 10 years working with the city and being sort of a little part of what was happening and what was going on. And I'd like to continue that. And I'm interested in, very interested from all of our travels, that what you really remember about a city as we've traveled away through them is the extra things, the statues, the murals, the artwork, and things like that, that if they're all tied together, really make a place that you want to come back to, a place that you want to tell your friends about, and I'd sort of like to be part of that still.
And then my question is, as part of the Carson City Cultural Plan, Master Plan moving forward, how do you envision encouraging the inclusion of public art components in private development? What's your thought process? There's no right or wrong answer, just thinking outside the box.
Well, I think that if the businesses, if the businesses, if the arts, 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 if the arts and of course we've been in business for a long, long time, really realize how much they can add to their own economic development and to the economic development of the town and the vitality of the town, that we can encourage them to join up and really put something forward more than just landscaping is great, and we love to see it, but that's going to end up becoming somewhat restrictive because we don't have the water. We're not going to be able to have a lot of grass in front of places and things like that. And so I think that you should be able to encourage business just from the economic development standpoint of more people coming in, more people appreciating the whole town. And if the town is really sort of jumping, you might say, then their business is going to also take off, I think.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate it. All right. Who do you want to go next?
Mary, what role should the BAC play in Carson City's arts community?
The Beery Arts Center?
Yes.
I think it's a very big part of the cultural center, just from all the classes they offer, from the groups that they're bringing in, from the venue they have, from the little theater to the old St. Teresa's, which has been remodeled now. So I think that they really add a good dimension. I think it's important. The city is not going to be able to bring in all these different venues. And it's sort of, so I think this is sort of a private, by and large, public group that is much more, has much more flexibility than asking before the Board of Supervisors each time, can I do this or can I do that or the other thing? And so I know lately I've been attending over there, and I'm finding that it's getting more interesting the more I see of it. Right.
Jim and then Lori.
Hi, how are you doing?
Just fine.
Thank you for being here. My question is, how do you see the future of the art community as it relates to the youth and engaging them in culture? I should say art culture.
Oh, art culture. Well, there's all kinds. Well, I grew up in the high schools I went to. I was both in band and in art. And just the contests, the recognition, such as the band and the choir, this high school kids got at that time, recognition for the work that they do, shows for the work that they do. I think that it's very important that art be available throughout the school. And also, again, this is where the Brewery Arts Center comes in and the Children's Museum comes in, is that they also offer classes for the children, camps for summer and things like that, that it's hard. You offer it, and then to get the parents to accept it and to make the time for the kids to do it is, I think, somewhat difficult. But I think the more that it is portrayed, the more publicity it receives on it, the more recognition that it receives on it, just as with sports, that you are going to have more children as they follow their dreams, so to speak, involved in the arts as well as they are now involved in sports and in other facets of their school life.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lori.
Good afternoon. Hi, Mary. How do you think the arts stimulate economic development?
Well, as I said before, when we travel, I will go back to Anacortes because of their murals. I will go back to Leavenworth because of their architectural controls, or Sonoma because of the same thing. All of these are encouraging economic development. And so I believe that the arts, the overall look of the city is bound up in art, or can be. The overall vitality of the city. You come into town, and there are things to do. And again, your friends, your relatives, and those that visit, the tourists that visit, see things to do, and they don't see just another Walmart. They don't see just another four-story building sitting someplace. They're seeing the total image of the city, with the artwork, with the programs that are going on, from a dance on a street, or a street dance, or a play, or a show. That all they see all of this. And when they do see it, they're apt to stay another day. They're apt to spend another hotel night. They're apt to do some more shopping and everything like that. And that all goes into the economic development of the city. I mean, for us, it's in our business, they move here because they come into town and they say, hey, this is a beautiful place to live. And that makes our business stay busy. And it's the same with restaurants, it's the same with shops, it's the same with the motels, with the gas stations. The more people that just really are enjoying the town and wanting to come back and recommending it to other people, the more the whole economy is going to function and hopefully keep growing. Not too fast.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, this has been very sort of nerve-wracking. I haven't had an interview since I was way back when, about 20. And no, hardly. But I really want to be involved somehow in this town. I really have gotten to appreciate, just because of sort of happenstance, how much the art can play in the town, just with the freeway and the amount of enthusiasm that was present that I never thought would be when it was completed. And all kinds of people, from young people that are just going out and learning a history lesson to the elderly. And so I would really appreciate the opportunity to serve on this board. And I think I could bring sort of a different perspective as a citizen at large on it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. City Manager, who's next?
Next up is Barbara Dineo.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Barbara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to ask what the question the mayor usually asks, and then I'll ask my own. Okay. And that is, why do you want to be on this board?
I love Carson City. I love the energy that's developed in Carson City. I like where we're all going. I bring a lot of art background to Carson City. I'm now off the Brewery Arts Center board, and I miss being involved in the arts, and I think I can contribute a lot. I'm a strategic thinker, and I really want what's in the best interest of this city and to open up arts for everyone.
Now, for my question. As part of the Carson City Cultural Master Plan moving forward, how do you envision encouraging the inclusion of public art components in private development? There's no right or wrong answer. It's more about thinking outside the box, which is what this commission is about.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity for artists and for businesses. I came from the Bay Area, and I do know that most of the banks, the colleges, all kinds of businesses, department stores encourage the arts. And bringing that in, Renown Hospital has one whole gallery that they have in their hospital. And it changes, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us all to learn about our artists and to have an opportunity to view marvelous pieces of work. So I think that as a part of the plan, there needs to be a group or a few people who literally do contact businesses, both locally and in Reno, in Minden, in Gardnerville, and work towards developing this coalition of showing artists' work. I think it's exciting and wonderful.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Barbara.
Good
Thank you
afternoon.
very much for applying. We really appreciate all of the candidates. How do you think the arts stimulate economic development?
Okay. I think they're crucial to stimulating development. As you bring in businesses and organizations, I don't care whether they're Tesla, I don't care if it's a senior development, I don't care if it's a high-rise building, those people who come to your area, they want to know, what is the culture in Carson City? How can we be involved? And if you want, like the theater, we need to ramp up the theater, because as people come into Carson City, they're looking for that experience. I don't want to have to go to Reno, and I don't want to have to go to Sacramento. I want to be here. I want the arts here and exciting. So I think if we're going to bring businesses, seniors, and others to this community, we have to improve, enlarge our cultural activities. So I think it's really worth it.
Jim.
Hi, Barbara.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you see the future of the art community as it relates to the youth and engaging them in the culture of art or art culture?
I love it, and was involved at Brewery Arts Center with a youth program with the Boys and Girls Club that they came and we funded it, and they put on presentations afterwards. After school programs, I could see an after school program or the summer programs for kids. We have to get our kids involved, and the schools are not able to do it as well as they used to, and that's understandable. But what is the responsibility of we the people? And I truly believe we have to do everything we can to work with the kids and to expose them and interest them in art, learning what's in the back of the theater in terms of the production, learning how to do the dramatics, how to, make all of the scenery, all of that. That's a wonderful thing for kids to learn, pottery and so on and so on. And I think we need to work really strongly with the schools, particularly, and I know that Mr. Stokes is also very much behind this, that we need to get this moving. But instead of a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit in the Cultural Commission plan, we need to know, how are we going to do it? What are the objectives that we want to do? How many kids are we talking about? What are we going to plan? How are we going to plan this? So I'm really behind, I'm all about kids. It's one of the reasons I'm in Rotary. It's all about the kids. So yeah, I'd love to work on that.
Brad.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
My question, what role should the Brewery Arts Center play in Carson City's arts community?
You just had to go there, didn't you? Okay, just so that everybody knows, I was on the Brewery Arts Center board for a long, long time, and 3 different terms, and I put together their foundation, which they still have in place, and was president of the foundation and a board member for lots of years. And it was a frustrating, challenging, interesting time. And my question to all of you, how much is the Brewery Arts Center worth to this city? And it's not just, oh, we think you're wonderful, now go find the money. It's been a very difficult time for the Brewery Arts Center to find its feet because of the mass financial problems that they took on. But I think the Brewery Arts Center is the key to art in this city, to all of the cultural aspects in this city. If you choose it to be that, that's your choice. But I think that What I've seen over time, and I haven't gotten involved in other art organizations particularly, but there's a group here, and there's a group there, and there's a group here, and there's these people here, and so on and so on. What's the plan? What's the direction? What are the objectives? We had a day-and-a-half retreat at my house for the Brewery Arts Center, and we came up with a strategic plan. That was the point. Where are we going with this? Well, you all know what happened with the Brewery Arts Center, but it's got a wonderful, wonderful possibilities. But the Board of Supervisors, the city, the employees, the people who live in the homes around us need to get behind it and need to help it. You don't even know what it is when you pass it. So how do we change that? How do we put it center front? This we're proud of, this we want to share with everybody. So there's many, to answer that question, Brad, there's just a huge amount of issues that need to be addressed in terms of it moving forward. And I, for one, I tore my hair out just saying, please, please, please. And finally I said, that's enough. But I would like to see that be number one, and everything spin off from that. Okay? Are we done? I'm thinking, I read all night long. I spent an hour and 19 minutes listening to that dude on the open meetings.
Barbara, anything else you care to add?
Well, I was a politician in California, and I have to tell you, we had the Brown Act. You don't even sneeze without getting permission. The last thing I'd like to say is, the last thing I think is, there needs to be some laughter and some fun, you know, and that's what I need right now, and I hope I can help you. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, the other two applicants are not here. My understanding, speaking with Roger, is that Joseph Pazlov has withdrawn his name. In terms of Bob Stansbury, as you know, he's currently the chair. I think he and his family have been out of town for a while, and I believe they just got back. He probably missed the notification for him to be here, so I leave that to the board on how to consider his application, but he's not here.
All right, well then I'll bring this back to the board and open it up for discussion or possible motion.
I think Jim should go first.
I don't have a problem with that. I know Robert, I wish he was here for a small presentation, but based on who I met today and the responses that were given today to those individuals, that's what I'm basing my decision on. I'm going with Barbara and with Mary.
Lori.
In the seat. It is a very difficult decision because we aren't hearing from someone, and this is a fairly new committee also. So I only have the information that was provided today to make my decision. I don't have any other items. So Danielle is currently on there and has only had I guess she worked hard for a year on the bylaws, so I think maybe she should get to have a little fun with the part now of implementing. And I think Barbara will bring a dynamic value to that committee. So Danielle and Barbara for me.
Brad.
All right, I agree with both Lori and Jim. I can't make any judgments on Bob because he's not here, however unfortunate that may be, so I need to make a decision based on the people that were here to be interviewed today. And I score based on a point system because it takes the emotions out of this. This was very close. I only have 0.3 of 1 point between all the applicants, but I've got Danielle and Barbara as the highest scores.
Well, I agree with everything that's been said, and I too have a point system, and it was a very close race, but Danielle and Barbara stood out, so Do we have a motion? Jim?
What I'd like to do is, I think it's important that whoever gets appointed to these boards have the full backing of the board. So I'm going to move my vote from Mary to Danielle, so they have all 4 votes in the support of the board. So I'd like to make that, and I'll make that motion that we appoint Danielle and Barbara to the Cultural Commission.
I second that.
Aye. Opposed?
Case we can get all the open space.
Mr. Mayor, for the open space, we're going to start here with Bruce. We are going to have Trish Lincoln on the phone, so she'll be able to do a telephonic interview if that meets the pleasure of the board.
It does.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Mr. Scott, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Nice to be here.
I have just 2 questions, Bruce. One, you've been on the board, Open Space Board, a long time. You've been a guiding hand in that organization. Do you want to stay on there, and why?
I would very much like to remain on the board to see through what I consider to be a major milestone, which would be the completion of the acquisition of the Silver Saddle Ranch and the associated lands from the federal government, and the implementation of our management plan, so that going forward, as we are now moving into management and out of acquisition primarily, I would feel like that would be a good place of accomplishment from my personal goals and for what I hope would be very valuable for Carson City. So that's my thought process in terms of asking for your consideration for reappointment.
Well, you also, in that answered my second question, which was what issues are facing you, and I got a good answer on that. So who wants to go next? Karen.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
Okay, if the state takes over federal lands, what do you bring to the table that enhances that relationship? What are your skill set that really helps that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've had a career involved in open space, resource, engineering, water, those kinds of areas. In our business, we try very hard to take and integrate resources with the engineering and to bring a more holistic result as a part of that. It's pretty far-reaching to consider what if the state were to acquire major portions of federal land. I think it has to be done very carefully. It has to be analyzed very carefully, and it has to be the resources become a huge element in that. I feel that my background and my experience and my interest would be helpful with that. How that would impact directly in Carson is pretty uncertain at this point. But I feel like the work that we've been doing on open space really lends itself to that same kind of issue. We're interfacing right now with the BLM and their planning. So I think I could bring a lot of experience and I think a pretty measured approach to how things such as the acquisition of major land areas might be handled.
Answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Brad.
My question is, how do we best transition from the acquisition of open space properties to improving and maintaining them for public use?
I think we're already on that road. We have transitioned with Juan's retirement. Ann Bollinger is a resource person, and she is now our open space manager. We have just hired a new natural resource specialist, if you will, in open space. We're moving towards management as we prepare to acquire this major piece of federal ground which needs some management. And I think for Carson City's benefit, needs some active management. We will have, as I see it, occasional recommendations from open space to the board for possible acquisitions, but I see those as pretty limited, very much opportunistic if something arises that we really just think is worthy of your consideration. And things like linkages on trails and bits and pieces of acquisition that might connect and provide for what I envision as a circumnavigation route around the valley with the trail system. And lots of pieces of that are in place. More of them are on the way. But from an acquisition standpoint, I see trail connectivity being the primary area and a minor one. So getting back to your question, I think we are on a pretty good road for moving to management. We're looking at budgets. We'll be looking at budget recommendations to the board, and I think we'll see some additional requests for kind of a interpretive specialist park ranger combination person who can do some law enforcement, but really a person who's primarily a resource person who makes public contacts, helps get a little bit more presence out there as part of the management, and moves us a little bit further within the budget that would be available towards a better management system. And of course, the management plan is going to be the framework for that process. Sure.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. That was nice. What goals do you see open space having for the Silver Saddle Ranch?
The Silver Saddle Ranch comes with a number of defined requirements and limitations. The federal legislation allows certain things, precludes certain things. My goals would be to take a good hard look at the resource as part of the management plan, bring about, I think there's some improvements that could be made. I've been a little bit critical of what I see as sort of lackluster management recently from the federal government's perspective. I think the transition has dragged out longer than everybody realized, and I see some real catch-up work that needs to be done at the Red House out on the Silver Saddle Ranch. We have been doing some improvements to the irrigation system, to the fencing. I think that's really important to maintain that agricultural base, to maintain the resources, the ability to deliver water, and some of the trail connectivity of course, is already in place. I think there's some maintenance needs there. We also have, along with that acquisition, Ambrose area and some other properties to the north that aren't technically part of Silver Saddle but are coming with the federal government, as well as Prison Hill. And we have some management areas and issues that we have to deal with there. So I think we have a plate full of management. It just hasn't quite gotten to us yet.
Bruce, what are your goals for cleaning up the Carson River and maintaining its access and cleanliness?
One of the important requirements, elements, needs for open space is the Carson River in our watersheds. And we've had some tremendous partners, Carson City has, and open space has been part of that. But the Carson River Advisory Committee did a great job for many years on the river. We have a lot of those folks still donating time. We have service clubs. We have Eagle Scout projects. Maintaining access to the river from the standpoint of primarily non-motorized access, I think, is important. We have access points along the river for a number of different uses. I think stabilizing some of the banks, we've had a little bit of erosion years ago when we had high water, and I think that's an important element. I think maintaining the riverine areas so that we don't get overuse or degradation. I think a lot of it is signage, a lot of it is informing people, a lot of it is maybe some relatively minor protection devices and things like that. But it's an important element, and it really deserves, I think, a little more attention than we've been able to give it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything you want to conclude with, Bruce?
Yes. I apologize for putting the board in the position of potentially considering an ex-felon. I would note that I am a registered voter, so and I'm sorry I didn't fill that box out correctly in the application.
We thought it was a Freudian slip.
Yeah, could have been. I don't know. But I really enjoy the Open Space Committee. I would really appreciate your consideration, and I will respect any decision that the board might make. Thank you very much.
Bruce, regardless of how the vote comes out, thank you for all the things you do for Carson City, and particularly all the work that you've done at Open Space. You've been a guiding light for a long time on there. So,
well, thank you very much.
You bet. You bet. Okay. Trish? Shouldn't have to on that one. Maybe you do.
No, I'm sorry. We'll just call it. We'll call it. 7-7-8-4-3.
That would probably be better.
This is Trisha.
There you go.
Tricia, good afternoon. City Manager
Hi.
Nick Morano here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Hey, Trish, this is the Mayor, Bob. How are you doing this afternoon? Can you hear all right? Trish?
Hello? Yeah, I can't hear. It's very,
Hey, Trish,
now the voice is very, yeah.
if I could, let me give you a phone number if you could call us real quick, and I'll put you
Hold
up.
on, let me write it down.
Okay.
So I can do that. Okay,
You ready?
yes.
Okay. 775-887.
Mm-hmm.
2000, and then you'll have to dial extension 30459.
Let me just make sure I have it right.
Okay.
775-887-2000, extension 30459.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to do it right now.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Trish. How are you? Nick here again. All right, I'm going to put you up on the microphone here, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the mayor.
Trish, this is the mayor. Can you hear me now?
You're in the distance, but I can hear clearer.
Okay, we'll try and be more articulate. We're a little late today and we're stumbling around, but we'll try our best here, okay? All right.
All right.
Hey, Trish, you've been on the committee for a long time. I have two questions. One, why do you want to stay in the soup? And two, what do you think the biggest problems are that are affecting open space that you'd like to address?
Okay. Why I would like to continue and serve one more term, which would term me out, is I think that we're in a real transition time, as you all are aware, that we've been directed as the Open Space Advisory Committee to manage the property now rather than be in the purchase mode. And we've gone through the transition of a new open space manager. So I think that continuity and the knowledge that I bring of the purchase of, frankly, at least 70% of the properties that we're now tasked with managing is valuable for going forward. Also, I still, as I've always said, I think that the open space, especially that we have a revenue stream from sales tax, is the envy of many, many preservation leagues in the state and in the country. And I want to make sure that it stays that way, that we have this open space, that it's available to the public, and that they know about it. And what do I think are the greatest challenges that we face? I think clearly balancing the needs of the public who prefer passive recreation with the segment of the population in Carson City that prefers motorized and would like to see more of our open space available to that, as the biggest challenge that we face going forward.
Okay. Let's see, who's next? Brad? We're good? Go, Brad.
Hey, Trish, this is Brad.
Hi, Brad.
My question for you, and you mentioned that you're going through a transition at the Open Space Committee now. How do you think we should best transition from the acquisition of open space properties to improving and maintaining them?
How to do so? I think that, let me think about this. Well, again, facing and balancing the needs of the public for how we use that space, and also the knowledge that I have of the process that we went through when we acquired so many of those properties, and the understandings of what we anticipated its use for are valuable at this time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Lori?
Hi, Tricia. What goals do you have for uses of the Silver Saddle Ranch?
I couldn't hear that question.
What uses do you have, what uses do you have for the Silver Saddle Ranch?
Well, I definitely think that our having Mickey Anderson continue to utilize it as a ranch for ranching purposes is important. I like that there's a partnership with the Friends of Silver Saddle Ranch and their ideas about eliminating buildings that are not so historical and dangerous, and improving and restoring the historical ranch house. I think for tourism, I'd also like to see us be able to do some summer concert series that, I don't really have the background to say what types, but I think that I could definitely see sitting in the shadow of the Prison Hill, sipping a glass of wine. I don't know if that's allowed on open space, but I'd like to. And listening to some good music with some friends would be, a very nice use.
Okay.
The wine sounds good. Trish, my question is, what are your goals for cleaning up the Carson River and maintaining its access and cleanliness?
Ooh, goals for cleaning up Carson River. Well, I mentioned earlier that I think educating the public about the uses and access, and so are important, and also the more that we have legitimate use of the public in general, and the more responsible members of the public will help keep down the, I hate to say this, the less desirable elements who are more prone to the littering and leaving behind the accompaniments of life. I think it's real important when the river water's so low that we block somehow access to driving on the riverbed itself, and I just think, large rocks that can be moved when the river comes up, sort of thing. I think they would get moved by the water, but again, just educating the local population that this resource is there for them, and these are the uses that we see, and that could be beneficial to the community, and so there's more legitimate and approved of activities there. Would keep down the unapproved activities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Tricia. This is Karen.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm hoping you're doing better.
I got some doctor appointments when I get home, but I'll be okay.
Oh. If the state takes over federal lands, what do you bring to the table that helps facilitate cooperation?
More, I'd say, than anything is my knowledge of the properties and the original intent, and my history of being on the committee and knowing what we have talked about over the years for different properties. And the other thing too is that I come to the committee as the member of the general public. So I don't have a background in the sciences. I don't have a background in government. I speak from the heart, and I talk to my neighbors, and I bring that to the table.
Great answer. Thank you.
Trish, that concludes the questions. Do you have any concluding comments? This is Bob.
I would very much like to continue on the board for one final term. I very much enjoy the involvement in this area. I also serve, and I don't think many of you supervisors know this, I am the president of the Gonai Canyon Preservation League, which is a private neighborhood organization. We have an open space trail up on our property on the corner of Gonai and Calvin, and so I have that knowledge, and those neighbors that I have contact with that know or have known that I'm on open space and have always seen it as a good mix, and it keeps my lines open for that communication about usage and open space throughout the city.
Very good. Well, Trish, on behalf of all of us, thanks for your service on the Open Space Committee. And regardless of how this vote comes out today, we want to know that your service has been deeply appreciated by your community. And so just know that we appreciate you reapplying here again. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Mr. Welch, how are you doing this afternoon?
Real good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You have an impressive resume. This is, well, you better say it for the record so people know. You have, this is Alan Welch. You have an impressive resume. Why don't you, we each get to ask a couple, I probably heard how we do this. Were you here listening when we went through the code? So you
Yes,
know how
I
it's
was.
gone.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question that I usually ask to get things started off. Then I have just kind of a follow-up question. That is, one, why do you want to do this? And two, what do you think the major issues are facing the Open Space Committee?
Okay. I'd like to give back to the community. I have fairly deep ties to the community. I've lived here for longer than I'm going to say, as you can tell from the gray hair. Both professional ties as well as with other groups that would interface with the open space activities. So I think I would be able to give back to the community by serving on the committee. I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Just what issues do you see, what are the major issues you see coming up in front of the Open Space Committee?
Well, open space, I think, has two basic issues to grapple with. One is, what do we do with the land that we already need to manage? How do we manage that in an intelligent way to make the maximum use of it, but still keep it as a natural open space? And it's also the issue of identifying what pieces of property would be key to bring into the overall holdings for the city so that we can maximize and connect those pieces of property that we already control.
Very good. Okay, Lori.
Good afternoon. Thank you for applying. We really appreciate it. What do you see as some goals for uses of the Silver Saddle Ranch?
I honestly haven't thought that much about the Silver Saddle Ranch. I've been more focused on other things, but clearly that has a lot of potential for recreational use, and particularly because of where it is and its accessibility, family use, and integration with some of the trails that are in the hills adjacent to that. So I see that as one opportunity to help with the connectedness of the open space within Carson City.
Hi, my question is, what are your goals for cleaning up the Carson River and maintaining its access and cleanliness?
I think you may have seen in my resume that I'm in the Kiwanis Club, and we've been running the Carson River cleanup for 25 years now. So I don't see that going away. So I think along with increased use, that has really dramatically decreased the amount of trash that we're finding. And so I think by encouraging people to use it, they're more, just Jane Jacobs' idea that the more eyes you have on public space, the safer and cleaner it's going to be.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. If the state takes over federal lands, what do you bring to the table that enhances or facilitates cooperation?
So assuming the state takes over
Assuming they do, and knowing how those kind of relationships can be tough. And in your role on open space, should you be on that committee, what would you bring to the table personally that would help facilitate cooperation amongst the organizations?
Well, I think the open space would advocate for keeping public lands public to the maximum extent possible, and not have that just as an avenue for development, with the exception of areas where perhaps in holdings within the city where it is appropriate, but for the most part, making sure that people are aware of the cost of taking federal land and managing that, which is by no means trivial.
Hi, Alan.
Oh.
You mentioned earlier that one of the issues before open space is transitioning from acquisition of open space to maintaining the open space that we currently have. My question is, how is the best way to do that?
I think it's a combination of the city management and maximizing the use of volunteers. I think a very good example of that is the Ash to Kings Canyon Trail, which is something that certainly the city has provided funds and there's been grants for that, but it's also been a tremendous effort on the part of volunteers. So I think it's a volunteer and governmental cooperation that we can start achieving much more of that sort of projects.
Ellen, anything you'd like to add in conclusion? Anything brought up that piqued your interest you want to say?
I just want to emphasize that I would really enjoy and feel that I could contribute to the Open Space Committee, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for applying. Your interest in making sure that our community is well taken care of is deeply appreciated by all of us here. So regardless of how this vote comes out, thanks from all of us for applying, and thanks for your interest in our community. So
okay, thank you.
You're welcome to sit around here and see how we do this, too.
Okay.
This is the hard part.
All right.
All right. All right. How you doing, Aaron? Haven't seen you since Christmas time. So what have you been doing?
Well, you know, recently I've been lobbying up for this session, so that's what I'm spending most of my time doing.
Well, you look pretty sharp. So
thank you.
For the record, this is Aaron Sims. Aaron, I don't know if you know how we do this, but we all get to ask a question or two and then go forward from there. So, you know, the question I usually start off with is, you know, why do you want to serve on the Open Space Committee as opposed to any other committee? You know, what do you see as the big issues facing the Open Space Committee?
So to start off with, you know, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the Board of Supervisors for this opportunity. You know, I believe that one of the reasons why I do want to serve this committee is because I believe I bring a special balance of both experience as well as a fresh new perspective that I think is much needed in you know, many different advisory boards, and definitely specifically the Open Space Advisory. You know, it's something that I've always been very interested in. You know, how open space works in conjunction with our community, how it serves our community, and how the community can benefit best from having you know, good sanctioned off open spaces. I believe that, you know, with having over a decade of public service experience, volunteering, working on different organizations and different boards and committees, I have, you know, again, a good balance of that experience as well as, you know, some bold new perspectives and something that I want to bring to the table, some new ideas in terms of advising this board and the city on what to do with the Open Space Advisory.
And what are the big issues or major issues you see facing the Open Space Committee that are coming up?
So, you know, what I see a lot, you know, I know that Carson City in recent years has really been going after, you know, tourism and bringing in more people and, you know, trying to make Carson City a better place, a better community for people moving into Nevada. Along with that, we really need to look at having, you know, again, we're having an influx of people moving into the town. We need to set up some provisions that help preserve those open spaces that we do have currently in Carson City, and ones that perhaps could be good candidates for open spaces in the near future. I think that's very important. For example, if I may get into it, you know, you don't want to take like a trail or, you know, something that's, again, very open and very sanctioned for wildlife and add things like trash cans or, you know, benches up and down it. Although that is a good intentioned, I think that that would bring, you know, more people in terms of more garbage, more, you know, more hazards for wildlife and for, you know, the nature that should be preserved as is.
Very good. Jim, you want to go?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My question is, what are your goals for cleaning up the Carson River and maintaining its access and cleanliness?
All right. So, you know, partly, I think when it comes to, you know, cleaning up any kind of environment, it really comes down to how are we, as a whole, educating the public. You know, are we just suggesting, oh, you don't throw your trash on the ground? Well, that's very general, and people don't always listen to that. Or are we seriously getting out there and investing our time into literally educating, you know, people? Where does the Carson City River run? What does it do? What does it feed? why is it important to keep it clean? So that would be actually a very main goal of mine, to keep the Carson City River clean and, without its trash. But number one, educate the public. Number two, I think we need to look at new, innovative ways to keep it clean. If that means, coming up with a whole new plan to either hire city workers or volunteers, perhaps, to go up and down the Carson River within our municipality to clean it up, that would be great. I think that would be a great new job for some people out there that would be beneficial for the surrounding areas and the environment of the Carson River.
Thank you.
How are you?
Great, Madam Supervisor. How are you?
Good. If the state were to take over federal lands, what do you bring to the table that enhances or facilitates cooperation between open space and the powers that be?
That's a good question. The thing of it is any city is going to be very territorial over what's within our borders. We see that all the time. We see that here with, who controls the Walmart. Is it really Douglas County, but it feeds mostly Carson City, et cetera, et cetera. I understand that the state would want to have full provision over their open spaces within their borders. It's their right to do so. And we need to remember that as a city, we are part of the state of Nevada. We are not just Carson City independent. So for me, my first approach would be to come to the negotiating table with an open mind and to understand that, this isn't just our city, this is part of our state. And cooperation is important. I wouldn't necessarily be against, that, but at the same time, I would hope that the state would understand, and my personal opinion would be that as a city, we care about our open spaces, BLM, et cetera. We care about who we can work with and what alliances we can make because, that's our territory. But I would hope that the state would understand. I would try to get them to understand that, because we care about it, we do feel that it is our responsibility, not just our duty, but our responsibility to make sure that those open spaces are preserved and even protected, and then, of course, cleaned up, too. But first and foremost, I would go and approach them with an open mind.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Brad.
My question to you, give us your thoughts on the best methods to transition from the acquisition of open space to the improving and maintaining of those open spaces for public use?
Well, to me, that's a very general process. Or actually, not general, but a specific process, because that's like saying, 500 years ago when countries were expanding and, Manifest Destiny started 200 years later. What are you going to do with the property you have claimed? What are you going to do, with that? And I think that's actually, a very important issue too, because it is a process. For example, you get a property up in the Sierra Range, it's going to be vastly different than what's on the east side of Carson City in terms of terrain, in terms of, what's over there. So more specifically, how I would handle the transition between the two would be to first study the landscape. What did we acquire? What do we have in our possession now? And then see how best we can, while maintaining an open space, how best we can use the land. And is it going to be, preserved for wildlife? Is it going to be something that's still open space, but a little bit more open to the public in terms of, a nature trail or a walk or, maybe an area by the river to have a picnic in once in a while. But I think ultimately comes down to getting to know your land, getting to know what kind of terrain it is and what you can do with it and what are the possibilities. But we need to remember, of course, it's going to be an open space. It's not like we can just open it up to developers to, do different things with it.
Good afternoon, Aaron, and just want to take a moment to thank you very much on behalf of all of us for applying for this position. We very much appreciate it. Mm-hmm. What goals do you have for the uses for Silver Saddle Ranch?
And I believe the Silver Saddle Ranch is very, in my opinion, important to the community. And in terms of goals, that is something I almost want, and this is truthfully what I feel, I almost want to open that up to, what the public's opinion is versus before I can make any final decision on that. So first and foremost, I would ask, everyday average citizens of Carson City who are engaged and who do know about that, what you would like to see done with it. Maintaining, wildlife is important, I believe. And then, of course, allowing in a controlled manner the public to access, freely, as long as we keep provisions there that would, one, keep it clean, and two, it would respect the property as a whole. I think that's very crucial and very important. So those are the things that I would suggest for that project.
Okay. Aaron, thank you very much. Anything concluding comments you want to make to us?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again, I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for this opportunity. I want to go back and hit on some of the points that I made real quick. I believe that I bring a very fresh new perspective, something different. It's always good to have a balanced board, a diverse board, but one that's balanced nonetheless. And I think that working as a team on a board such as this, it's necessary to have not only different opinions, but ultimately come to a decisive and unified decision. And that's something I believe I can bring. I have experience working with various boards and organizations and, served as president or chairman several times. And I know that it's important to collectively make decisions. And that's something I believe I can decisively bring to the table.
Very good. Very articulate. Thanks.
Thank you guys very much.
You're welcome to sit around while we do the hard decision here. So make yourself comfortable there. Okay. Who wants to start? Huh?
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
That's a cop out.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. I guess I'll start. Well, I agree with the fact that this is a transitional period, and I believe institutional wisdom is really important. I also believe that somebody who is actively involved in bettering our open space is worth a second look at as well. And so for those reasons, I'm going to suggest Bruce Scott and Alan Welch.
Well, guys, and lady, all I can say is wow. We have 4 candidates. If you scripted this, you couldn't find 4 more qualified candidates, and yet we find ourselves in the position of only being able to pick 2 of you. And I agree with Karen's comments. I think the institutional knowledge is very important, but I think it has to be balanced with fresh new ideas, and boy, this is so tough. I've got the same 2 choices, Bruce and Alan.
Anybody else want to go?
Does that make me next?
Lori?
So I think certainly that we lost Juan Guzman, so I think that Bruce's institutional knowledge is imperative to this committee. So I'm going to pick Bruce for that reason. And then when I looked at both Alan and Tricia, I think they both do the public portion that we're interested in. Alan does the Kiwanis that helps clean up the Carson River, and Tricia does the Gonai Road. So I think they both bring the general public perspective and participate actively in keeping the community's open space clean. And generally speaking, we have a board policy that says we allow those that want to apply again to stay on the committee. So I'm going to vote for Tricia for that reason.
Well, I'll go, my first selection is Bruce. That is, I'm going along with the board there. I don't necessarily know that if you're on the board, you necessarily get the go-ahead. That's my opinion. I think it's open to everybody. Although I am, my selection is Tricia or Patricia Lincoln for the second position, and we'll leave it to the mayor to decide.
That'll teach you to make us go first.
I'm going to weigh in for Bruce Scott and Alan Welch.
Okay.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion to appoint Bruce Scott and Alan Welch.
One second. I think I did this last time, and I'm going to do it every time. I think it's very important that this board back the majority. Everybody stands behind our selection, so I'm switching my vote from Patricia Lincoln to Alan.
Okay,
I concur with that, but I'll do it with the motion by saying yes.
go with the motion, it's fine.
Right. I agree. I'll make it.
I move to appoint Bruce Scott and Alan Welch to the Open Space Advisory Committee, each for a 4-year term that expires in January of 2019.
Second.
Motion second, all in discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried unanimous. Thanks to everybody. Aaron, thank you for applying. Please don't not apply again or whatever you want to do. So, and thanks for being the youthful face for us. Thanks. All right. Thank you. Thanks to Alan and to Bruce. Do good work. All right.
Oh, that was hard.
We're now on item number 24, public comment. Anything, anybody? There's no public comment. Are we ready to adjourn?
We are.
If there's nothing further to come before the Board of Supervisors, we are adjourned.
Okey dokey.